Hello everyone, welcome to Pros and Cons. This is Real Red Stock on a slightly different video today. As you can see, I'm outside. You can't really see Old Trafford, but I am outside it. You can see here. And you know what, I just thought a little bit of a change, something different from what we usually do. I'm usually sat in the room kind of venting my frustrations. And this is more like a therapy walk, if you will. Wake up early, get a coffee, and just talk football, basically. Now, the first kind of negative I'm going to discuss is Marcus Rashford and Bruno Fernandez, because for a long time now they have been pretty poor and pretty average, and considering they're the pillars of this team, you know, some of the most experienced ones, some of the most seasonal ones, they just haven't been delivering at all. Marcus Rashford's attitude stinks. I don't like him as a number 9. I think he's terrible, and when I saw he was starting there yesterday, Rasmus Højlund's out, you're just absolutely gutted, aren't you? You know we've got no focal point. We know he's not going to drop deep, he's going to complain, he's going to moan. And he's even said on on footage with Gary Neville before that he's unhappy about playing that striker role. He prefers playing on the left, he prefers cutting in, getting in behind. And even on the left he's been struggling to a certain extent. I just don't know what you do with him. That's the issue. I know PSG have been kind of sniffing around him. You know, talks of if Kylian Mbappe kind of moves on, will we end up spending, I don't know, £80 million, £90 million, and then kind of replace him. But there's a lot of United fans who are kind of adamant not to move him on. And again, I understand this from Manchester as an academy product, but he's a purple patch player for me. He just doesn't seem to, I don't know, he just can't seem to grind any kind of consistency out of the player. And I don't know if it's things going on in his life, or I don't know what it is. Bruno Fernandez is another kind of thing that you need to discuss, because when he first came in to United, he was unbelievable. Even when he played poor, he got an assist or a goal. You saw him bang one from outside the box. He put through an insane assist for Rashford. He did bits, absolute bits. But they've been way below par for a long time. I feel like every time I do this kind of pros and cons video, I'm always talking about Bruno and Rashford. And it goes back to them being the key pillars of this team. They don't do it enough, and I don't know if you can build long-term success with these two players. That's the question you need to ask yourselves. Obviously, style of play is another kind of big issue for me. Let me just dive under here. Whoop. I got a nice little shot there of the obviously style of play is a massive issue. I think people are struggling with this. There's lack of control in games. I think in the past 5 games we've conceded over 100 shots, which is just unacceptable. We've conceded apart from Sheffield, we've conceded the most shots in the Premier League altogether, like 400 and odd, I think it is. The games are way too open, it's basketball-like, and sometimes in a game like yesterday at this ground, and a game like Luton, you want them to just, sometimes the seasonal players, get the foot on the ball and control the tempo of the game. And it seems like Ten Hag's very willing to kind of almost just allow this craziness and chaos. And the players seem to be struggling with it. The passing networks, there's too much space. We have a really bad spacing issue, I believe. When you watch us, even when you watch Fulham, when they're defending against us, they're compact, they're organised, they know what they're doing. It just seems like there's no instruction. It just seems like if you get the ball, long ball it to Bruno, sweet. And like I said, I'm going to discuss City towards the end, because we've got them coming up in the Premier League next. You can't play like that against Man City. You're going to get absolutely battered, lads. So it's tough, this style of play. I don't mind transitional football as long as it's done right, and I don't think this football's been played right at the moment. Now, another negative is, of course, Europe. Champions League football, huge for ad revenue, huge for attracting players, just huge in general for Ineos who are coming in. They're going to need as many funds as they can get, because FFP is tight. But not only just that, just like the United should always be in the Champions League. I know we fucked up this year. I know Onana basically single-handedly kicked us out of Europe, but it's still absolutely massive. And I thought having those wins over Aston Villa, over Wolves, the difficult ones at Molineux, you know what I mean, at Villa Park, and you go in there and winning, and then you lose to a Fulham side who's in the past 10 games probably won 3 games, drew quite a few, and lost the rest. He was in poor form, and he was missing the best player. He completely changed a load of people off the bench, and United didn't turn up. And we're at this point again where you just question everything. There's no consistency with this team. This has been a theme under Mourinho, under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, under Rangnick, under Ten Hag, and people always call for a change of manager. But where's the call for the change of players? Do you know what I'm saying? Second to last thing I want to talk about is injuries, because we have really struggled this year with injuries. You know, no Lissandro, no Shaw, no Casemiro, again after having him out for such long spells. We've struggled, and people will say injuries don't mean anything, and they'll say, you know, that squad should still be beating like a Fulham, and they should still be beating them. But when you want to play a certain way and you haven't got, you know, your best centre back, your best left back, only holding midfield that you truly got. I know Kobe can do a job there, but Casemiro is like vitally important to that midfield. Then you're going to be hindered, aren't you? I know teams usually have injuries in a season, but even when City had just Rodri out, I think they lost 3 out of the 4 games. You know, if Arsenal had Declan Rice, Saliba and Saka out, they're obviously going to miss him. It's massive quality drop off, and we've not even got a squad to match it. We sent half our players out on loan. The left back situation was always bizarre to me in the first place, because you've got an academy prospect there in Rashford Fernandez, who you just let go. Malacia hasn't been fit again all season. He's had, you know, issues with his knees, so there's no cover there essentially. And then you let Reguilon go back to Brentford, and now we're sat there playing Victor Lindelof at left back. So that was a decision made by the manager. It was a risky decision, and it hasn't paid off. Rasmus Højlund was another one. He got questioned about this in the press conference. He got asked about this, and he said no, it weren't a gamble. We had Martial, and Rashford can play there as well, so we thought we had enough cover, but he didn't. He didn't have enough cover. I know strikers are expensive, like he said, but Rasmus came in with a back problem himself, and we need depth there. And this is the reason why I'm going to start falling off now. I'm going to start losing like quite a lot of games, because we just cannot, even though we're not in any other competition other than the FA Cup, we just can't seem to deal with the workload. The players are just absolutely crumbling. And I also think the style of play has a bit of an effect with that. I think that because it's so chaotic and energetic and high pressing, and they just seem to be really struggling, because there's been a lot of muscle injuries. So the medical department comes into it there, and you need to start asking questions of them, because we've had 25 plus injuries this season, and I'm not even including absences, certain situations with Anthony and Sancho, and don't even get me started on all that stuff, because that could be a whole another kind of negative, talking about these expensive signings that have just gone to waste. But they've ended our season. We're ended up with what, we're 6th, 7th in the league, something at the moment. Probably not going to get Champions League football, probably not going to win a trophy. And we're back to square one again. How has this happened? Now, the last negative I'm going to discuss is the fan base, because there's been a lot online at the moment about the fan base being divided, people arguing like Goldbridge and Saeed TV and all these kind of fan channel accounts, and that's absolutely fine. They're entitled to their opinion, but it just breeds more negativity online, I think. I have no issues with opinions whatsoever, but I feel like people almost want the manager to be sacked. And I'm not speaking about, you know, individuals specifically, but it feels like that. It definitely feels like people just want a reason to say, I was right, I told you about Ten Hag, I told you about this football. And I actually agree with some of the comments that, like, I've already spoken about the football and style of play is pretty horrific at certain points. Decisions he's made in game, when you talk about substitutions, I think have been a bit odd and bizarre. And they're valid, they have very valid points. But then it goes back to, all right, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to bring in Potter to the end of the season? Graham Potter to the end of the season, really? Surely, I know Ten Hag's spoken about the bigger picture and people are kind of questioning that, but he's right. Like, you need to get to the end of the season and then make your assessments. I think we're too quick to get rid of the manager and not even discuss the players, and hopefully we'll see a little bounce from the players. They'll turn up when the training's different and when circumstances are different and everything's all comfy and cosy for them. But when the going gets tough, these players do fuck all, nothing. And I'm more concerned with what players we're going to get rid of in the summer. How cutthroat are we going to be? Now, usually I do a bit of a positive section with the pros and cons, but I'm sorry to say I can't think of any fucking positives whatsoever. I mean, if I was to scrape some, I'm talking like scrape some. Ahmad got minutes, Forson got a debut. Is there anything else? You can't have any positives coming out of the game when you lost to Fulham, a shit Fulham side, 2-1 at home. Can you? Like, it's bizarre. I can't think of any positives, genuinely. Now, we've got Man City in the league next. That's going to be fun. If you keep playing this style of football, you're going to get absolutely twatted. You can see in 20 shots against Liverpool, a lot of shots against Fulham, these kind of teams. You give them chances to Haaland, Foden, Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, you're getting punished, and that is what I'm really worried about. Of course, we've got Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup, and that's a worry in itself because we've already lost to Nottingham Forest this season at the City Ground. And I think this FA Cup fixture is actually away at the City Ground, so that's going to be a scrappy game. You think then if you get knocked out of the FA Cup just before the Manchester derby, fucking hell, what are we going to do? So it's almost like you go from the last game winning against Luton. I was going to say ecstasy then, but that's way too a strong word. You win the last game, the game against Luton, and you're talking about next 5, you know, even if you get a draw against Man City, you can beat Fulham, you can beat Everton, you can beat Sheffield, you can beat all these teams. And now you're like, fucking hell, we could lose that game. We could drop points there. There's no sustainable patterns. Like, we've had a little bit of consistency at the start of this year, and I think they've been sugar-coated by some of the performances, in my personal opinion. So I'm not hopeful. Sounds really negative and depressing and all that kind of stuff, and I know, it's just, like I said, it's like a therapy walk this. I'm walking around Old Trafford just speaking to you guys. This is just how I feel. I'm kind of like letting it off my chest, do you know what I mean? So unfortunately, unfortunately no positives today. That's the way the cookie crumbles, unfortunately. So if you have loved this video and enjoyed it, please do smash a like on the video, subscribe to Real Reds Talk, and stay tuned for more content like this, because we are going to upgrade this shit. We are live outside Old Trafford. Make sure you leave a comment, your thoughts, if I've left any kind of pros and cons out, and I'll see you guys in the next one, yeah? Take it easy, legends. Peace.